Welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm your host, Patrick Cristiano, the publisher of TheaterLife.com, a website for theater buffs in New York City and the Hamptons. And today we have a really special guest, a friend of mine, Ruth Appelhof, the former executive director of Guildhall for the past 18 years, is it, Ruth?
17 only.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's
You're
a
welcome.
thrill to have you, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you for the next 28 minutes.
Oh, thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here, and congratulations on this wonderful new show.
Oh, thank you.
Really.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think people are already talking about it in town, and that is always a good sign, right?
Well, we're here to talk about you.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
But thank you again for coming. And how is it not being a Guildhall? We missed you. We love Andrea too, but we,
Oh, of course.
you know.
Well, not being at Guildhall for me isn't exactly not being at Guildhall, because even though I'm trying to let Andrea Grover do her own wonderful thing, I'm also attending a lot of programs at Guildhall. So, you know, it's a thrill to keep coming and keep seeing plays and musicals and dance. I mean, I'm enjoying it all still to this day. I can't stay away.
Well, you like to learn things too.
Yeah.
But you know, what we have, when you retired last year, was it at the Rainbow Room, was it?
Yes, yeah.
They did a video
Right.
about your tenure and all the
Right.
things that you accomplished at Guildhall. So, you know, I want to show this to the audience, the
Okay.
little, who made this? Do you remember?
Oh, of course I remember a wonderful young woman whose name is Lauren Baker, who is now getting a graduate degree at Pratt. And she was so talented. And she asked her father to do the voiceover. And we always like to give the father credit for this too. But it was a complete surprise to me. I didn't know that they were doing it, so I'm thrilled.
So who's your father that did the voiceover again?
Mr. Baker.
Mr. Baker.
In September 1999, Ruth Stevens Appelhof, Ph.D., joined Guildhall as executive director. She brought a scholarly background in curating, experience in supervising capital renovations, and a genuine passion for the arts that is truly contagious. In the announcement release, then Chair Mickey Strauss stated, Dr. Appelhof is vibrant and receptive to new ideas, two traits that will be extremely valuable to the specific challenges of running a diverse cultural institution like Guildhall. The star commented that with her appointment, the East Hampton cultural spot is poised for a huge spurt of growth. And grow it did. Over the next 16 years, Ruth would lead Guildhall through a dramatic transformation, including a 3-phase, 5-year renovation that incredibly preserved the integrity of the building's original design while bringing it into the 21st century with state-of-the-art technology. One of Ruth's most critical goals was to better serve the year-round community. She met with local businesses and residents and learned they wanted affordable programming and professional plays in the John Drew. Since then, Guildhall has gained critical acclaim for many productions, including Equus and All My Sons, starring Board President Alec Baldwin. Most importantly, much of our year-round programming is free, including admission to the museum, making Guildhall accessible to all. Many might say Ruth's most impressive achievement is her brilliant ability to engage supporters. She was quick to respond to the diminishment of public grants by working successfully to build strong patron support for Guildhall. Our board is perhaps the most loyal and committed of any arts institution. Every discipline is supported with a committee comprised of a blend of devoted trustees and specialists who provide Guildhall staff with input and insights on programming. When Guild House was purchased, Ruth had a vision, and tonight that vision has become a reality with the announcement of the Artist in Residence program at Guildhall. This further fulfills our mission of cultivating and nurturing the arts on the East End by supporting emerging talent. Throughout her tenure, Ruth often found inspiration in the legacy of the legendary Guildhall director Inez Whipple, who's been credited with instilling GH with a distinct set of core values. Our Ruth Appelhof has worked tirelessly to keep those values alive and flourishing. Under her watch, Guildhall has gained national attention for the depth, diversity, and magnificent quality of programming provided throughout the year. Ruth has been an exceptional leader, says Chair Marty Cohen. Hers will be a legacy of having rebuilt Guildhall into a dynamic arts center that is widely celebrated both for its outstanding programming and for its responsiveness to the community at large. Thank you, Ruth, and congratulations.
Thank you, Ruth.
Yeah, well, you know, that whole thing was a complete surprise to me.
Oh.
Although I had planned on retiring, I didn't know they were going to announce it that night.
Oh, really?
And it was I was stunned. The video was so beautiful. I have to also mention that Barbara Jo Howard wrote the script for it, which is just beautiful. And then Sarah Jessica Parker gave me the award. So I was very touched that evening. It was a wonderful evening for me.
I was there that evening, and I remember it very well.
Oh, you do?
I love that room, too. The Rainbow Room
Yes,
is one of
isn't
my
it
favorite
beautiful?
places in
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
Manhattan. So it was terrific. And what you did, the capital improvement campaign that went for 5
Yeah.
years, how you did things without the
Yeah.
theater. I didn't know how you were going to do that, and you found so many innovative
Yeah.
ways to carry on. And
Well, it went on for 5 years, and we did one little piece of Guildhall and then another little piece. So sometimes it would be a gallery that would be closed, and sometimes it was the offices. The staff were actually housed in trailers behind Guildhall. And then finally the theater, and that was the big piece of it. I had no idea what we were getting into. We actually knocked out the back stage completely. It was a big open hole there and dug under. They said we wouldn't hit water. Of course we did. And we built then the beautiful new dressing rooms down under the stage and rebuilt the stage with a sprung floor and wonderful lighting and sound. It was a great project.
Anybody that's been there, it's amazing what happened in all those offices you have downstairs.
Aren't they beautiful?
Yeah, and I had the pleasure of working on the stage a few times,
no.
but I got to work on it before the renovation and then after the renovation, so I got the advantage of all the, the state-of-the-art technology.
Well, and before renovation, we were having fires in all the electrical outlets.
Oh, wow.
On the stage. I don't know if you ever were experienced
No,
that.
I never
but
had.
That was not good. So it needed to be done.
So, but and the in-residency program, that was dynamite too. I was there when that started.
I'm so proud of that. That took a lot of planning and a lot of support, and Eric Fischel really took the lead with that in so many ways. We had a community committee that got together every month and discussed how an artist in residence should work at Guildhall. The real impetus was that we had a house. Actually, the new chair of the board, Marty Cohen, agreed that we should, with the board, agreed that we should buy this house, which was right next door.
Right,
It was
it's
obvious that it was contiguous to our property, but still a lot of money and probably, a risk. But we did it, and as a result then, we were able to do the Artist in Residence program in the spring, and we decided we would do not just a painter and a sculptor and a musician, but all the arts. So we were able to have 4 or 5 different artists in residence at the same time, and they came from different parts of the arts. Hopefully, then beginning to kind of talk to each other and get a symbiotic kind of artistic relationship going. The other, I think, major goal for me anyway was to get these young people feeling as though they belonged in our community. And now from 2 years ago, those artists are coming back. They're still corresponding with me. And they love East Hampton because, we don't have a lot of young artists out here anymore. So it was a great way to kind of build up the history of East Hampton as an artist colony. And I'm hoping that it will continue. It did this past year beautifully.
Yeah. But before you came out here to do this, you were a teacher and
yeah, I did a lot of things.
An art consultant. But what I found most fascinating was that you came out here in 1974 while you were still getting your degree, and you stayed with Lee Krasner.
Yes. Well,
So-
that was kind of fascinating.
No, let's see Lee's house at that
Okay.
time, and then we'll just want.
Yeah,
I have a
sure.
picture where you stayed.
Oh, yeah.
This is the house, right?
Yes, that's the house.
And it's the Krasner Pollock,
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah, it's.
and then we have a picture of the studio too. And there's the studio.
Yeah.
1974 now.
Yeah.
You came here.
Right.
You were a young girl.
Well, I was 34 years old, which was not that young, but I guess in experience, yes, I was young. I had actually been at Syracuse University taking courses, and one of the professors said, well, do a bibliography on your favorite artists. So I thought, it's got to be Lee Krasner. At that time...
She was your favorite artist then?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
but at that time, they didn't have Google or any of that stuff. So you had to go to different volumes of the Art Index, and it took months to do this. But I sent it to Lee and said, I admire your work, and here's something you might want to see. And she was impressed with it. And so she asked me to come down to New York and meet her.
And how did it happen that you came out here then? How did that happen?
Well, then we chatted several times. She was always very hospitable. She lived in a beautiful high-rise apartment on 79th Street. She would have tea and cookies or something. And we'd talk about her work a little bit. And then finally she said, well, maybe you'd like to stay over. She had a maid's quarters, and we can talk further. So I did that a couple of times. Well, anyway, we got pretty used to each other, and she said, well, would you like to consider writing your master's thesis on me, and then you could come out to the Hamptons in the summer and stay with me and take notes every morning, and she would give me these interviews. So I just leapt at the chance, as you can imagine.
So was this her idea? Or did you have the idea yourself? And
It was probably,
mutual?
I must have had it, but somehow it seemed almost a natural decision for the two of us. And so it was really, maybe talking to her about where I was in my career and that I had to get this master's thesis done, that she picked up on that. But it was certainly her idea that I come out to live with her. I would have never, in my wildest dreams, thought I could come to the Hamptons, which I didn't know anything about. I didn't know about all the artists out here or the beautiful beaches or the wonderful people. It was just a place on a map to me.
wow.
Yeah, kind of a surprise.
So did you stay all summer? Was it a whole summer?
Pretty much all summer. When I got here, realized that she might not have been so interested in my research, but she was certainly interested in my being there. She didn't like to be in the house alone at night. And in fact, for years after, she lived 11 years after I left, she asked people to come and stay with her. So I was there for her at night, and also she didn't drive. So
Wow.
the funny part about my driving is that I actually, at the time, had a Ford Pinto, which is that little tiny, awful-looking car, and it was in orange. So I don't know why I ever picked that color. I was obviously
'Cause you were ahead
I
of your
was
time.
liberated. But anyway, so I
You
picked
knew
her
orange
up.
was going to be the new black eventually.
I guess that's right. So I picked her up in Manhattan with her luggage, and she very bravely walked out to the curb and, had the doorman put her luggage in. I'm sure she was just cringing because she knew that all that summer I would be chauffeuring her to different parties,
In an orange
to
car.
stores, and in the orange car. So, but anyway, it was hilarious actually.
So in 1974, after spending a summer with her,
Yeah.
you decided you were going to write a book about Lee Krasner. And
Well, you know what? When I was interviewing her, I kind of promised her that I would do something other than the master's thesis, which, by the way, I did do, and I did get my master's degree.
Congratulations.
Yay. But I told her, I really want to do something about you, telling people about your work and the struggle that you've been through. At that time, I had very little opportunities in front of me, but still. So she was very kind. Yes, okay, fine. Didn't ask me to commit anything, but I always had it in my heart that I would do this for this woman who I absolutely admired and felt obligated to, and felt that she was worthy of a book. So it wasn't until many years later when I got at Guildhall and I'm realizing, oh my gosh, I'm back where I started
Wow.
from, and meeting a lot of people that knew Lee and talking to them, and it got to be more and more obvious that I would need to really commit myself to this. So when I retired, which of course I never really wanted to retire from Guildhall, what a wonderful job that was. But, you know, it took about a week or so before I realized, oh my gosh, now I have the freedom to do this for this woman that gave so much to me. So I'm thrilled to be doing it.
How terrific. So,
Yeah.
so let's see the picture of Lee in front of the page. Here's Lee. I thought this was an incredible picture because she
Yeah.
looks like this tough curmudgeon almost.
Oh, yeah.
Was
That
she-
was accurate. Yeah.
And then there's another famous picture. I love this picture because she always was in the background
Yeah.
to Jackson Pollock. I mean, so when you talk about her struggles, were a lot of her struggles with him?
Yeah, actually, that picture was taken by Hans Namath, and that, whatever it is, anchor is still hanging in the house.
Really?
At the Pollock-Krasner house,
Wow.
yeah. She was always in the background, but it was her choice, which I found so tender and loving of her. She knew that he was a genius. She met him in finally in 42, but she had actually met him at a party before that where he kind of made suggestive comments to her. But then when they met again in 42, she went into his studio and she was overwhelmed with his genius.
Oh, wow.
And so she recognized that if they were going to have a life together, and I think they probably fell in love immediately, because it wasn't much after that that they actually moved in together and then finally moved out here. But she knew what a great artist he was, as did many other people in the art world. She also learned that he needed a lot of care, that he was an alcoholic and he needed a lot of nurturing and directives and support and sheltering. So she chose to do that, not to the extent where she stopped painting, but certainly to the extent where part of her time was spent caring for him.
So you talked in your interviewing with her that summer of 1974. I read an article, I think it was an article on your blog about coming out here the first time and how she would go over what you typed up in the morning and cross most of it out. Is that?
Oh my gosh. Well, as I have kind of been implying, she was somewhat difficult to live with. But one of the issues that we had was that I would spend my nights typing. I wasn't a good typist anyway. And in the morning, I'd bring down these wonderful typed transcripts for her to review. And she actually had a big black magic marker, not just a simple little Sharpie. This was a big black one. And she would cross off all the good stuff. And as it turned out, I learned later, and I'm learning again now, that she had a pat answer for everything. People asked her the same questions. You know, what was it like living with Jackson Pollock? You know, what inspired you? Who were her teachers? So she had pat answers for everything, and she didn't like to go beyond that. So if she did, she would cross the things out.
So she wanted to control what was out there.
Absolutely.
She wanted to control the image.
Yeah,
That was
right. And that's what she did for Jackson, too. She controlled his image.
So you're going to put some of the stuff back in that she
Yeah,
crossed
sure.
out? You're going to get all the stuff that she crossed out and didn't want there initially?
That's right. Well, the funny thing is that I had the tapes, and they were
wow.
reel-to-reel tapes, you know, the old-fashioned reel-to-reel tapes.
remember.
And Charlie Bergman, who was the head of the Pollock-Krasner Foundation, kept saying to me, Ruth, we know you have those tapes, and I'm so worried because the reel-to-reel are very fugitive, and they could just all turn to dust. Well, I knew I had them. I didn't know where they were. And about 2011, this guy named Paul Brenner came to visit me from Syracuse University. And the reason I'm mentioning his name is I thank him so much for this. He's, I'm from Syracuse. He was kind of probably looking for money. He said, well, what can I do for you? And I said, well, I've got these tapes, and I understand there's a sound lab at Syracuse called the Belfer Sound Lab. If you could take these tapes and see if they could transcribe them onto a digital disc, that would mean so much to me. So by 2012, I had the actual sound tapes on a digitized disc and was able to then transcribe them, and thank God they were all right. So I have all the bad stuff as well as the good stuff.
So you actually started doing this in 2012?
Well, in my spare time,
Well,
which
that's what I
wasn't
meant.
very much.
No, I know you don't have much spare time. I saw what you did for the past 17 years.
But yeah, I was thinking about it, yeah.
So did you have a publisher yet?
Well, I think I have a book agent,
Oh.
which is very exciting. One of the people that I interviewed actually introduced me to this gentleman. My interview was with a woman who has done some tapes that are here at LTV. Her name is Molly Barnes.
Oh.
And she's fantastic. She does a course in New York City on art, lives in LA. She's an amazing person. I interviewed her for the book. And she said, you need to meet a friend of mine. His name is Sterling Lord. Well, I'm not in the publishing business, so I don't know much. So I did. I went to meet him. Turns out he's one of the biggest agents in the world.
Sterling. So this is your agent, Sterling?
Yes,
Congratulations.
so far. No, we'll see how it goes. But for
However,
now,
I'm sure it's going to go.
no,
smoothly.
he's been so kind and generous to me. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know what will really happen. But
Oh,
Yeah.
you're going to be an author and you're going to write a book like you plan to.
well, the other thing that's kind of encouraging is that there's going to be a big show of Lee Krasner's work in London in 2019.
Oh,
And it's going to be at the Barbican Gallery, which is a beautiful gallery, a museum. And the curator's name is Eleanor Narn, and she is this young, kind of enthusiastic person that loves Lee Krasner as much as I do. So she's putting the show together, and she said, Ruth, if you get the book done by the time we do the show, we'll take it.
when is that show?
2019 in the fall.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I do have a deadline.
So you're working hard then
Yeah,
too.
sure.
So, and you just came back from Rome.
I did.
So
Yeah, so all of this, all roads lead to Rome, right? But I can't really explain how Lee Krasner has anything to do with Rome, except to say that I wrote a proposal to the American Academy in Rome and said I needed some quiet time to write this book, and they accepted me as a visiting scholar for 6 weeks in May and June. And so I went over there and just wrote like mad. Every day I'd start writing at 8 and I'd end at 7 at night.
Oh, wow.
And I just, I'm sure people imagine that I was touring all the time, but in fact I really did spend most of my days in my room writing. So it came to 52 pages, and since then I've been writing more and interviewing more. I'm interviewing people that knew Lee. And one of
cool.
the things I'm hoping, if anyone did know Lee and they want to get in touch with me, just send me an email at leekrasner@outlook.com.
So anybody knows or knew Lee Krasner, do that. Send
Yeah.
Ruth an email.
An email at leekrasner@outlook.com.
Yeah. Oh, and Ruth has a website it's raarts.net.
Correct.
Where you can see some of the. She just wrote an article for Pulse magazine, which
Yes.
is really fascinating.
Oh, thank you.
About light, color,
yeah,
color,
yeah.
and light, and
Yeah.
it was. It's up there on the website, by the way. You can read it.
Oh, that's great.
Because believe it or not, we're down to 2 minutes. It
Yeah.
it flies by. Do you want to talk about this article?
Well, I love doing the article. The only thing I'd like to say is thank you to all of the people who contributed to it, because what I did was ask a number of artists and art educators and designers to give me a quote and a little information. So I made it into chapters about each of these wonderful artists, and they were really the ones that wrote the article.
Yeah, see, they're the ones that wrote the article, but
Yeah.
you put it all together. And it's really fascinating about how color affects us, and
Yeah.
and even it's in the chakra. It's a really cool article.
Oh, thank
I
you.
hope our viewers will go take it out and take a look
Yeah,
at it.
it's in the summer edition of Pulse magazine.
Summer edition.
Yeah.
It just came out, didn't it?
Yes.
It just came out.
Yeah.
So, what? So you're still working on the book every day, I take it,
Every day.
and you go and you do your research. Or do you go to the Jackson Pollock?
I
House?
do, and I have to mention Helen Harrison, who has been my mentor and friend. She is the director of the Pollock Krasner House and Study Center, and she's just been a wonderful mentor for me. She just finds books and clippings and videos, and oh my gosh. So there's a lot of material there. I haven't gotten through it all, and I think that has been an amazing. I mean, it's only around the corner from where I live.
You know how fast?
I can walk.
Do you walk?
No, I don't walk, but I should.
So we're running out of time, unfortunately. It goes so fast, doesn't it? It's
Yeah, it
amazing.
does.
So now that you're retired, what's the title they give you?
Oh, I'm the Executive Director Emeritus of Guildhall of East Hampton.
Which is all executive directors become? Is that what they all become? Or?
Well, only those good ones.
That was perfect. That ended our show. Our time went up. You said only those good ones. That was the end of it.